Greetings, one and all. Super Wednesdays here in the Holy Apple, on the Holy Hilltop, in the Holy Land, coming to you. And today we are on the 25th day of the month of Tevet. With God's help, this class, may God grant us spiritual assistance here and open the hearts of the listeners to hear and understand and act upon this very, very important message. So with that said, let's go. Subject in the next couple of weeks, with God's help, is Anti-Semitism 2020. Can you see the problem? Can you see the solution? This is a must listen. We start off with statistics by the ADL. Fighting hate for good. The ADL has a summary of the year 2017 and 2018. And here's what they have to say. ADL's most recent audit on anti-Semitism claims the following. In 2018, there were 1,879 reported acts of anti-Semitism. Listen closely, reported, because many acts are never reported. 1879, remember that number. Second point of the ADL was there was a dramatic increase in the type of attacks. They are much more physical than they were in the past. Physical assaults. Point number three of the ADL audit. In 2018, the deadliest attack in U.S. history took place in a Pittsburgh temple where 11 Jews were murdered. That's in the United States history. Number 4, the attacks played out against synagogues, JCCs, Jewish community centers, schools, on college campuses. 5, assault, harassment, vandalism against Jews remain at near historic levels. Historic levels. That word is coming back in the history of the U.S. That's the ADL report. CNN reports the following. Through September 1st, 2019, that was approximately 4 months ago, more than half the hate crimes in New York were perpetrated against the Jewish community. More than half. 2, anti-Semitic crimes are up 63%. It's an amazing thing. Think about something, person has stocks, they went up 63%. Person has assets, they went up 63%. You know, it's like talking about big time. So this is an eye-opener, 63% increase. Chief of Detectives in New York, his name is Dermot Shea, hope I'm pronouncing his name correctly, stated, there was no definite cause for the spike in anti-Semitism. Very interesting. We can't point our finger to something that occurred, an event, a news event that occurred that could explain Maybe we'll have to call out the political scientists here to help us out. Now, in a report that just appeared at the beginning of the year, January 2020, there's an organization. It's called the Center for the Study of Hate and Extremism at California State University, San Bernardino. Man, that's like one heck of a name for, like, you know, the center. Like, well, you have to remember all those details over here. I think they should abbreviate it or something. Listen to this. Anyways, this report that appeared a few weeks ago shows the following. Anti-Semitic hate crimes in New York, Los Angeles, and Chicago. The nation's 3 largest cities are poised to hit an 18-year peak. For example, the report goes on. In Los Angeles, anti-Semitic incidents have doubled from last year. So when we look, comparing 2017-2018, comparing it to 2018-2019, which we just finished off, in Los Angeles, those acts have doubled. The center's leader, I'm not going to say the name again because that sucker is a long one, Brian Levin, commented, "It's something we have not seen in many years. We're definitely in a different era. We are definitely in a different era. Times are changing. The winds are picking up to a different direction." Chicago saw in the past year of 2018-2019, a 46% rise in anti-Semitism. New York reported 229 anti-Semitic incidents through December 30, 2019, a sharp rise from 2018, where through December 30th there were 185 attacks. So that's 44 more incidents. It's pretty clear that times are changing. We know that there were some major attacks recently by the black community in Jersey City in a kosher supermarket. 6 people were killed. And right now we're going to stop and show you 2 videos, 2 very disturbing videos which show black reaction to the various attacks on Jews that are happening in many areas where there is a large black community.
Shooting like this until they came. And if it was the other way around, they would have been killing us. And everybody who's standing right here know that. If it was the other way around, they would have been drilling us right now. Look how black people act. We can't do it to them. I mean, a civilian got hit. It's a school right across the street. They don't give a fuck about us.
Is your child stuck at school?
Yes, my child is stuck
sorry.
at school
I'm
because of Jew shenanigans.
I understand that you're frustrated. I would be too.
They all the problem because they ain't come to Jersey City. This shit would never go on. People kids are scared. People kids are stuck in school. Take that shit somewhere else.
It was your kind of
No clue.
4 y'all dead, right? 4 year people that was dead, right?
I'm not from here.
That's great. If they was dead, they got shot dead, that's great.
I'm Ami Horowitz, and I'm here in Brooklyn, New York, where there's been an explosion of anti-Semitic violence going on.
Jewish community in Brooklyn calling for action today after a sharp increase in anti-Semitic attacks.
They are the hits that keep on coming. Real hits, brutal attacks against Jews in New York City.
There were at least 10 anti-Semitic attacks in the city last week.
Another anti-Semitic attack in Brooklyn.
I came here to find out what the hell is going on. There's been a deluge of anti-Semitic attacks in Brooklyn over the last couple of weeks, committed exclusively by members of the black community. Over the course of 2 hours, we spoke with local residents as to why they think African Americans in Brooklyn might be attacking Jews. What's going on? What do you think is going on?
You know what I think is going on? Because it seems like I'm not being a racist or anti-Semitic, but
whenever someone starts with, "I'm not anti-Semitic, but," you know, whatever comes next, it's not going to be good.
it seems like the Jewish people own all the buildings out here, and they own everything, and they're not sharing nothing.
They own everything. They're coming over here. They're taking over, but they're not renting it back to us. See, they're kicking us out.
And I don't want to go back to World War II with Hitler and all that, but
also, when you say Hitler and "but" in the same sentence, that's never good.
it seems like they own all the property, and they don't even try to help us.
We're not saying that it's right, but yeah, they trying to take over our buildings and stuff. They trying to make everything more expensive for us.
And Jewish is known to be rich for Brooklyn.
Right.
So, of course,
Is that a reason why you think the attacks are happening?
that is why the attacks are happening.
The have and have not.
Right.
That doesn't mean that's the majority thought over here. Not everybody in this neighborhood has a problem with Jews. I really think you're insulting African Americans by being in this neighborhood and asking that question.
The blacks are doing this to the Jews just to get by. It's not right, man. It's not right. I taught my children love. Love conquers all. They're controlling all the jobs, the economic growth, and the community.
Coming from their country
they not building
into our country, and they trying to change up our country to how they live.
They're going to get the money from here, and they're going to send the money to their country so they can
Which
live
country?
good.
Not in which country?
Not in the United States.
That's not their country.
No,
So you think the Jews here are not really American?
they not.
So black people would have reason to attack Jews.
I wouldn't say they have reason to, but it is understandable because everybody take it from us. And that's how I feel.
While these observations reflected the views of the majority of people that I spoke with, they were definitely not universal. What's going on?
Hate is a learned behavior. Hate is a learned behavior.
And where do you think
that simple? It's really that simple, And once you've learned to hate, the same way you learn to hate is the same way that you can unlearn to hate. We're carrying on our father's great-grandfather's grandfather.
They're bullshit.
Yeah, that's your shit. Let it die with you.
There are some alternative theories on why these attacks are happening.
Why you think the Jewish people is getting attacked?
I want to know about the Trump.
Do you know why there have been...
Because of Drake, nigga.
That was pretty disturbing. Thinking about, sometimes you have a little bit of mercy for the victims, the first couple of days, first couple of weeks or months, but here they're hitting hard. That's pretty amazing. A person is interviewing 2 hours. He's going around and interviewing people. Amazing thing. It's pretty scary. But I hate to be the boogeyman, and I hate to bring you into the haunted house, but there are scarier reactions. No, not from blacks, not from Hispanics, not from white super, racists, supremacists. No. The frightening reaction is actually from Jewish leaders and Jewish rabbis. In MetLife Stadium, a week and a half ago, there was the conclusion of the Talmud, a 7.5-year cycle. Many prominent rabbis got up to speak. There was not one rabbi that got up and addressed the problem and the solution, which we will, with God's help, we will we will make it crystal clear, the problem and the solution. That's frightening. There's 88,000 people in MetLife Stadium, and not one voice is heard about the problem and the solution. But there's more. The beat goes on. There was a rabbi who grew up in New York and then was given a job in a Pittsburgh Orthodox synagogue. He was interviewed outside MetLife Stadium at this event. Listen to his words. I live in Pittsburgh, and of course, just over a year ago, we had the massacre in Pittsburgh. We see what's happening here. All of the anti-Semitic attacks last week on the streets in New York. Said Rabbi Daniel Wasserman of the Sha'arei Torah congregation. But the reality is that whether it's ourselves or any other ethnic group, we are here. We are proud. We are not going anywhere. And this, pointing to the stadium, is a perfect example of it. We are not going anywhere. A famous, perhaps the first, or one of the first women, tremendous soul, tremendous person, Rebbetzin Esther Jungereis, one of her kids, excuse me, I wasn't able to pick up the name, but one of her daughters was interviewed a couple of days ago, and this is her message. This is her solution to the 2020 anti-Semitism problem. Listen to this one. Put on that seatbelt. It's about reaching out to others in our world so they understand that we are a nation who has been persecuted and tormented. Yet our response is to create, not to devastate. To grow better and not bitter. We are all created in the image of God. Okay? Answer, solution, reaching out to the world, explaining how much we have suffered, as if we are lacking museums of Jewish suffering. If they're in Washington, New York, Los Angeles, they're all out there. Okay? The former rabbi of Britain, Rabbi Sachs. Here's what he says. Next, we must recognize that while we have enemies, we also have friends, and they are many and strong. Many surveys in the United States have shown that Jews are the most admired of all minorities. We cannot fight anti-Semitism alone. The victim cannot cure the crime. We need to make friends. Okay, this is a tremendous solution here. We need to make friends from the world, from the nations, who will stand with us and help lead the fight. Rabbi Sachs. Once again, our solution is reaching out to the world, to the nations, realizing we have so many friends and we could win this battle. We could be victorious of this battle. Pittsburgh Massacre, a little over a year ago. The rabbi of the temple, his name is Jeffrey Myers, said on CNN the following. Myers vowed that his broken congregation will bounce back from this horrific attack. We are not going anywhere. We will rebuild and we will be back stronger and better than ever. I will not let hate close down my building. So, I don't know if they're friends, the two rabbis, in New York and Pittsburgh here, but they definitely sound very similar. Moving along to see how nothing has changed. In 1975, 45 years ago, look how nothing has changed. Rabbi Kahana writes the following: a Jew died in Brooklyn a few weeks ago, and leading rabbis rushed to the aid of Crown Heights and other Jewish lower class areas by advising them to carry money on the Sabbath. The case, of course, is one when a religious Jew was murdered in cold blood by a hoodlum after being held up and telling the robber that he carried no money on the Sabbath. The murderer shot him dead on the spot. Let's listen to the reaction of the leaders. The reaction of official Jewish leadership, local and otherwise, is instructive for what was said and what was not. Rabbis Emanuel Rackman and Norman Lamb, among the elite of the Orthodox leaders, call for an inquiry into the permissibility of allowing Jews to carry money on the Sabbath because of the issue of saving life. Which, of course, Rabbi Kahana says that is a great idea, because once the hoodlums and the criminals know that the Jews carry money on Sabbath, that will give them more of an incentive on the Sabbath to blow away Jews. That was a really good plan. But listen to this one. Mendel Shem Tov, chairman of the board of Crown Heights Jewish Community Council, declared, right, this is where the Chabad Lubavitch is, we have no plans to give up the neighborhood. If we have any plans, it's to build it up. The Rebbe of Chabad's secretary, Rabbi Leib Groner, declared, the Rebbe, feels that we can live in peace with other ethnic groups in the area through a proper meeting of minds. There will be no problems. 1975, proper meeting of minds. And one Motel Sharfstein, resident of Crown Heights, was quoted as saying, anti-Semitic incidents are infrequent. Nobody's leaving, that's for sure. We're here to stay. And we are expanding. We don't believe in running. Folks, if all of this doesn't make you ill, you better go to your local doctor, check yourself out. But we're going to hear, if you could take any more without vomiting, we're going to hear right now 2 more clips from various rabbis in America.
On that Sunday morning, I told my son, I said, I don't ever want to hear those words out of your mouth again. I said, yes, they're not Jewish people. They have different beliefs. We believe in our beliefs, but we always talk with respect to every single person we see. And they're going to church on Sundays. They're actually often better than the rest of society. They have values, they have morals, they have ideals. They're not like everybody. It's respect. Every single time I hear you say talk to them or about them, it's going to be with absolute respect. Well, let me give you a better example. I'm ready for this one. So about a month ago, I took a group I'm involved in Magen David Yeshiva. I don't know if anyone here heard of Magen David Yeshiva. So Magen David Yeshiva, it's a Syrian Sephardic school in Brooklyn. Never big high school. I'm very involved in high school. So I took a group of 24 senior boys, rambunctious, fun, great boys, to Israel for 8 days. Okay, so we had the best time. I can't even tell you. They woke up at 4 a.m, prayed on the top of Masada, were rappelling down some kind of mountain in the middle of the air. It was just crazy stuff. Up late, Segway, rabbis, yeshivas, things. One night, we ended up north after going to Old Kivarim, after the rappelling that day. We dipped in our Arizal's Mikveh, and then we were finally eating dinner in a restaurant called Dex. Anyone ever hear of Dex? No, you know Dex? You heard of Dex? Tveria, exactly. You heard it. So Dex is a nice high-line restaurant. We're all Syrians after all. So it's a nice restaurant. And they're having, the meat, the steak, the whole thing. And it's basically like a big, they have like a boat. So you go on the boat, you dance on the boat. The kids did their thing on the boat. Then we come in and we eat in this restaurant. It's a very large deck. A very large deck. So we have our table, 24 boys, a few of the rabbis, myself. And then there's other people eating. In the middle, as we're eating, we realize that there's a group of about 75 evangelical Christians that came with their pastor to visit Israel. So they're in the background. We see them in the background. And the pastor's making a speech to them. And then someone sings some song for Israel. Then someone else sings another song, God Bless America, or something like that. And they're doing their thing. One of my students comes over to me and says, Rabbi, a couple that go, Rabbi, you got to give them a speech. I said, what? You got to give them a speech. I said, are you crazy? Evangelical Christians are wearing sneakers, like even, I think I was wearing sweatpants even from going with the jacket. I said, you know what? Go ask them, whatever. 2 minutes later, the kids go back. Rabbi, you're on in 1 minute. So what was saying, evangelical Christians in the middle of Israel with 1 minute preparation. So I go over to the group. I take the mic. I said, I want to tell you something. On behalf of my people, I want to thank you for coming to our country. I want to thank you for supporting us. I want to thank you for believing in us. I want to thank you for, even though you're not the same as us, you're understanding for us. And I said the world would be a better place if people of different beliefs had understanding of one another, and appreciation for one another, and respect for one another. And there should be love and caring to one another. And I said, you know what? Our country, United States of America, we need a little bit of this. I said, the problem we have in our country is that the two sides can't ever talk to each other. I this way, you're that way, impeach, not impeach. It's only hate. I said, the fact that you came here with love is something that we appreciate. I said, this country, Israel, was built on that kind of respect. I said, let me tell you a story. I said, it's on this kind of respect that nations can grow. I said, you're from a different nation, but we respect you and we appreciate you. And we appreciate your love. And I want to thank you on behalf of my community, on behalf of my people, on behalf of my country for coming here and supporting us. And I hope that the world will understand this kind of respect and this kind of feeling and caring of one another. And I can't thank you enough for coming out and being this. God bless you, God bless Israel, and God bless the United States of America. Is that a good speech or what? Oh, they were loving it. They were amening. They were loving it. My students are so excited. They were like so revved up. One kid videoed it and put it on YouTube. There's a catch, okay? A week later, a student of mine in America says, Rabbi, I saw you made this speech with this pastor and the whole thing. I said, yeah. He says, do you know what that pastor believes? I said, what? He says, he believes that one day all the Jews are going to be wiped out. I said, oh. And then I said, it doesn't matter. Because I wasn't making a speech to him or even to them. I was making a speech to my 24 students. For them to understand that when you see someone who's not like you, your reaction and your approach is with respect.
The question is, what's going on in current times? Is timing becoming such that the dark clouds are coming close and the storm is coming, chas v'shalom, or it's not like that? So if you open newspapers, they'll all give you a prophecy, a black prophecy, that time have come and we're going to experience again, chas v'shalom, terrible things as Am Yisrael are used to throughout history. And Am Yisrael are very, very much, that's their soft spot. They have a trauma from anything that the Goyim might do to us. And you just smell a little bit of terrorism, a little bit of something that becomes bias, a little bit of something that becomes a hate crime, and you already see as natural, since we went through such a hard history, we become frantic and we have a trauma from it, and right away we calculate the next terrible events that's going to happen. So what do the media does? It picks on that. Why? Today media is about one thing: control and fear. Why fear? And why control? Because it comes down to one thing: rating. Everything today is about rating. How do you get rating? The easiest way to get rating is fear. Fear is a tool of control. If you open a certain newspaper and you always know that it's going to give you a black prophecy, things are getting terrible for Jewish people. We see our end already. This is something that's going to attract a lot of crowds. People want to open that newspaper, they want to read about it, because we are so much afraid, more than any other nation, and correctly so. But those medias, those newspapers, those sites are just feeding on to that. Where in truth and reality, it's not so at all, at all. Am Yisrael did not experience good times like now, currently, now, this year, throughout history. Since Am Yisrael was born, we didn't have such time.
I wanted to now spend a little time. This is from a blog called The Economic Collapse. And a very amazing blog, to say the least. And person just like, I don't know how he gets all of his information, but like he has all the surveys, all the statistics, really an amazing guy. He had recently 50 reasons to be worried if you're an American. 50. Now, if we brought them all down, we'd be here for a long time. So I'm just going to choose a few reasons that the Jews, not people, not Americans, reasons for American Jews to be worried. Folks, we have to understand this spike, this tremendous rise, these historic events that are happening before our own eyes. We are not yet in a financial calamity. So think if times are, let's say, fair. Times are fair in America. If this is what is going down when times are fair in America, what happens if and when times are not good? What happens if people are cold and hungry? That is a frightening thought. If what we see so far, what we see in the last couple of years, that is a frightening thought when times are fairly okay. So listen to a few statistics here that should worry every Jewish American. The United States government is now more than $23 trillion in debt. In the United States, 84% of all stocks are owned by the wealthiest 10% of all Americans. 84% of all stocks. Amazing. During the Obama and Trump administration, that's approximately 12 years, 11 years, more than $12 trillion in debt have been added to our national debt. U.S. corporations are now close to $10 trillion in debt. Total corporate debt has now reached 47% of the U.S. GDP. That is the highest level in United States history. A recent study showed that found 70% of all Americans are struggling financially now. 70%. The average family in the United States cannot afford to buy a home in 71% of America. Cannot afford to buy a home. Roughly 45 million Americans struggle with food insecurity. According to the most recent government figures, 24.6 million Americans have used an illegal drug within the last 30 days. Folks, 24.6 million Americans using in the last 30 days an illegal drug. Over the past decade, the suicide rate amongst young Americans has risen by 56%. The suicide rate for the overall population has increased by 41% between 1999 and 2016. 23% of all U.S. children live with a single parent. This is the highest rate in the entire world by a wide margin. Next, today, approximately 40% of all babies in America are born to unmarried women. Next, almost 1/3 of all U.S. millennials are still living with their parents. And perhaps this is the most frightening. A survey that was conducted a couple of months ago, all these, by the way, have sources that you just click on them, gives you all the sources. A survey that was conducted a couple of months ago found that 67% of all Americans believe that we are on the edge of civil war in America. Dear Jews, America, troubled economically, troubled morally. That's a frightening scenario to think about. And this at a time where we could say, or some would say, that the economy somewhat fair. The last point for today, and then we'll hold it here. We are in now an historical time period. We are in, for the first time in our history, we are in a lose-lose situation. LL. I'll explain. During our previous 2,000 years of exile, Jews suffered at the hands of the non-Jews due to a certain element that was prevalent amongst the Jewish society that was used against the Jewish people. For example, there were certain times of history where the Gentiles used the poverty card in order to justify their hate crimes, pogroms, etc. against the Jews. So there was one issue that stood out amongst the Jewish community, or in other parts of Jewish history. The Jews were very well-to-do. And that was used by the haters, by the anti-Semites, as their card to justify their attacks on Jews. There was always one or two issues that was their card. Folks, my humble opinion, for the first time in Jewish history in 2,000 years, we have in America all issues, all cards at one time taking place against Jewish communities. All of the issues are prevalent. They're all out there. For example, you have in the country of America, you have poverty of Jews, and at the same time you have the well-to-do Jews. You have those that hate Trump. You have those that love Trump. You have those that are segregated. You have those that have mingled and have assimilated. All elements have come together in one country. There's nowhere to run. There's nowhere to hide. Whatever card they will pull out, they will have their sources, they will have their statistics to convince others of America's plight and suffering because of Jews that are sometimes wealthy, poor, Trump supporters, against Trump, and the beat goes on, the list goes on. Let's look, number one card of the haters. The Jews are wealthy, they own everything. We heard that on the video today. The Jews own all the homes here. The Jews own everything, and they don't let us in. They don't give us a piece of the cake. Listen to this letter to the editor. I wish more Americans of every nationality and religion could be more aware of how many Jewish people commit tax fraud, welfare fraud, Medicare fraud, etc. I want more people to know how many Jews are on welfare because this is where they are really greedy. They are all pretty much middle class and richer. In fact, 6 of the 10 richest people in America are Jewish. Actually, almost correct, but it's not 6, it's 4. You have Michael Bloomberg, you have Mark Zuckerberg, Larry Ellison, and Larry Page. 4 out of the most wealthy people, not in America, in the world. 4 out of 10, amazing. Think about how many Jews are in the population. And, 0 point something. 4 out of the 10 are the richest people in the world. Yet rather than paying us poor working Americans a fairly hour wage in their many, many businesses, they don't ever give us raises. They pay Jewish workers more than they pay American workers. Then, after I kill myself working 3 jobs, sometimes going 2 days without sleep to earn $30,000 a year and pay the IRS $7,000 back in taxes. What do these cheap millionaire Jews do? They do not legally marry their wives in order that their wives can claim welfare and food stamps for their, on average, 10 kids. Unbelievable. Or another letter by a woman named Alicia. I work in healthcare, and a lot of our customers are Orthodox Jewish patients. They have Medicare cards, Metro Plus, Health Plus, etc. And when I see their addresses where they live, these are some of the most elite neighborhoods in New York, and the nice fancy cars that they drive, something is not adding up here. On the other hand, Jewish poverty. Oh, that's a reason to fight against the Jews. Look how much we have to pay in order to support them, those lazy bums. Listen to this. Lakewood was the fastest growing town in New Jersey and surpassed 100,000 residents in the year 2017, according to the Census Bureau. In the town, 32% of people in Lakewood live in poverty. Census figure shows Lakewood's rapid population growth, okay, the fastest growing town in New Jersey, is fueled by a flourishing Orthodox Jewish community. It's a funny word, flourishing, when 32% are in poverty. Let's go on to Chicago. Anita Weinstein, head of the Ezra Center Service, said the center services 4,000 needy Chicago residents. She goes on, 7,000 middle-class Jews need assistance. 3,000 Jews receive welfare benefits. 4. Steve Natsatir, president of the Jewish Federation of Chicago, stated 1 in every 5 Jews is poor or almost poor in Chicago. According to the UJC, 15 to 20% of American Jews are poor. 15 to 20%. Wow, I thought they were all rich. Amazing statistic. 350,000 Jews in New York City live close to the poverty line or at the poverty line. KJ, if you don't know what KJ is, baby, you just ain't hip. Kiryat Yoel in Monroe, New York. It is the highest poverty level for a municipality with 10,000 people. The highest poverty level. Kiryat Yoel, the center for the Satmar Hasidim. So we have Chicago, we have New York. Jews are rich, that's why we hate them. Jews are poor, that's why we hate them. Last but not least, Jews hate Trump. Jews adore Trump. Listen to how many Jews are involved in the impeachment of President Trump. The first public hearing in the Trump impeachment inquiry began this week with quite a splash. A bunch of Jewish actors are at play in this drama, and we've covered some before. Number 1, Ukrainian President Volodymyr Zelensky, who is caught in the middle of it all, Jewish. Representative Adam Schiff, Democrat, California. The California Democrat who is running the hearings, Jew. And Lev Parnas, Igor Fruman, the associates of Rudy Giuliani, Trump's lawyer, who are alleged to be instrumental in pressuring Zelensky to give in to Trump and provide damaging information on his political rivals. In the hearings Wednesday and in their aftermath, there were some new and familiar Jewish wrinkles, Jewish representatives. Democrats handed the first 45 minutes of questioning to Daniel Goldman. Goldman said, of course Jewish, Trump has urged Twitter followers to read the transcripts at least a dozen times. Then, of course, Goldman proceeds to read parts of the transcripts that back the Democrats' charge. Next, amongst the 6 House committee chairmen assigned a role in the impeachment hearings, 3 are Jewish, 3 out of 6. Schiff, who chairs intelligence, and 2 New York represents, Jerry Nadler and Elliot Engel. And then, of course, George Soros, the liberal Jewish philanthropist who has become a bugbear for Trump and the Republican Party. Did not surface in the hearing, but he did in prequel and aftermath sessions. So the Jews are against and the Jews are for. Whatever you'd like, you have your choice here. Whatever side you want to take to attack Jews, they're all gathering together for the first time in history. There's nowhere to run. There's nowhere to hide. It's an LL, losing situation. Dear friends, do not forget Stay tuned next week for the second part of this class. These are, okay, this is so important to hear this and pass it on to others and share it with friends, family.